What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 75 of the College Loop Podcast, 25 away from the 100 episode. And we're joined back by Mr. Harrison Tarr. Tarr, how you doing, buddy?
Hey man, I'm making it through this grind of a shortened season. So we're living. Got to do some on-field tarp maintenance today. And by that I mean we pulled tarp, and then as a reward we were able to slip and slide around the bases, which was ridiculously fun. No complaints. I'm very sore, but yeah. So lots of exciting stuff on my end. Excited to be back in the Auburn realm, and be able to talk some Auburn ball, and it's always a pleasure. So glad to be back in the booth with you, Dylan.
Yep, and you bring up Auburn ball, get straight into football. Biggest news of today, or probably the week, really. Auburn got their 2024 opponents revealed for the SEC. And pretty much we already knew Auburn was going to play Cal, New Mexico, and Louisiana Monroe, and that's already 3 home games right there. And then they released the SEC conference slate, and if you remember, the SEC is keeping it to 8 games, which means you have 1 permanent opponent throughout the next however long they're going to keep it 8. And start off with the home game. You want to start off with home or away?
Let's talk home games because we're looking at a first time, to my knowledge, at Auburn opponent in Oklahoma, and I think that's your headliner, right? You got Oklahoma, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M. That is an interesting slate of clubs coming into play at Jordan-Hare Stadium. First off, that Oklahoma game is going to be the most expensive ticket you've seen since Penn State, just out of principle, right? And we'll see that when Texas comes to the Plains as well, and whenever that happens in the near future. But you don't have a rivalry home game in 2024, which is interesting. And I mean, that's not out of this world different. But what we're seeing here is essentially you swapped LSU in this regard for 2024 for Vanderbilt, which on the win-loss column you're probably not angry about. But a lot of fans upset about the Tiger Bowl, Dylan.
Yeah, and you talk about Oklahoma for a little bit. Auburn and Oklahoma have only played twice ever, and they're both teams' long history. And weirdly enough, both games were played in New Orleans, and both games went to Oklahoma. The last one being in 2017 when Auburn and Shaun White went into the Sugar Bowl to play Trevor Knight in the Oklahoma Sooners. Yeah, you bring up no more Tiger Bowl for at least this season, upcoming, or the 2024 season, and it's a shocker because when you think of rivalries in the SEC and you think of rivalries for Auburn, whenever you think of it comes Iron Bowl, it goes Georgia, and then LSU is right there,
Right there.
probably really close to where Georgia is.
I don't know that that's true, but
It fluctuates, I would say. It's depending on who's better at that time.
Sure.
But LSU and Auburn are always close, no matter what. 2019, that game should not have been as close as it was, knowing that LSU team, just Auburn had a legit defense. So it was stop that.
Was it 2016, the Malzahn Miles Bowl, where like loser gets fired?
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. Going to the game, both fan bases knew whoever loses this game is losing their job.
Yeah, that
luckily Daniel Carlson did not miss a kick.
That's right. That's right. Was 16 the game that Auburn? Yeah, Auburn won on all field goals.
Yeah, and Auburn also won because I forgot the quarterback was for LSU, and I think it was Danny Etling. Was not looking at the clock. So the time ran out. He called the play, and yep, that's history. Les Miles gets fired, goes to Kansas. Not going to talk about the rest of what happened. He gets fired from Kansas, and then boom, Gus Malzahn gets fired a couple years later.
That's right. And you sent me an interesting text that I wanted, and you're probably about to talk about it. Are you?
I was going to wrap up the rest of the away slates
because I wanted to throw this in super quick about while we're on the topic of the Tiger Bowl, and we'll kind of roll this in with the rest of the schedule. First time that Auburn's not played LSU since 1991, excuse me, and that is just bewildering, like wild to think that there are by that point there'll be 33-year-old Auburn fans that have not seen Auburn not play LSU in their entire lifespan. Like these people have kids. Like 401ks even. Like it's crazy, but yeah, just an interesting tidbit there. And we'll see as the SEC kind of monitors and keeps its finger on the pulse if they decide to keep their finger on the pulse, which we've seen them not do before, of this situation. If that rivalry could return, but we're also going to talk about, I'm sure, a lot of rivalries here in a minute and what 8-game conference slates kind of bring to the table. So I'll let you continue with the home schedule.
Yeah, and you go into it after Oklahoma, you have Arkansas, A&M, and Vanderbilt, which where the state of those programs are right now, I think that's a pretty feasible home schedule. And you also got to add in that's 7 home games right there. They only have 4 away games, so that means there's got to be another home game in there with an FCS opponent. So that's 8 home games that I think are very favorable in how the schedule really panned out.
Yep, absolutely.
You go to the away slate. Alabama's your permanent opponent for the foreseeable future, which as it should be.
Of ever.
until that 9th conference game gets added in at some point, really.
Right.
Georgia, who is going to be, I believe, switching out with LSU as like your 2A, 2B rivalries.
Bizarre to me. Just absolutely bewildering, in my opinion. When you look at this, we've had this conversation earlier about how on the show about how we wanted to see the SEC keep your protected rivals, and who's to say that 25 slate doesn't change between now and then? It probably will. And there will. I would not be out of this world surprised if we saw a couple more teams apply to join the league between now and then, and in the semi-professional association of the Southeastern Conference of Football. But that is a weird one. That one is going to be tougher to me to see. And this is not just a fan perspective as much as like people turn on Auburn, Georgia, regardless of the year, regardless of the record, because it's one of those games. It's like Georgia, Florida, right? Like you're like, it's not Alabama, Tennessee. I kind of put them all on like a level playing field there. It's not one of those like, oh, this is a marquee rivalry matchup, but like this is a game that is always like these teams hate each other. These fan bases hate each other. And this is what college football is about. And then the SEC doesn't really care, but that's just my kind of editorialization. And the SEC definitely does care. They care about money. I don't think they care about passion, but they care about money. And those things do go together. It's going to be weird after 2024 to see Georgia not on the schedule every year.
Yeah. And your last two away games are, again, favorable opponents in Missouri and Kentucky. And that does leave an interesting question about the teams that weren't added to the 2024 schedule. And that's to go on with the rest of the tweet that I sent you. Mississippi State and Ole Miss will not be playing at Auburn or playing against Auburn in 2024, which Auburn has not played Ole Miss since 1989, and Auburn has not played Mississippi State since 1954.
Actually, I think what you meant to say was there's not been years that Auburn's not played those respective schools, because they have played them many times since then.
Well, yeah, they haven't. Oh, okay, there we go.
There we go.
Now it clicked.
Yeah,
and Auburn has not played. The last time Auburn did not play any of those teams, and LSU, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, was the year 1933. Which, and I like that this was a Ferg tweet, and he put the 1933 schedule, which I got to be honest, I would really love the schedule this year, except for maybe Tulane and Georgia. But Birmingham Southern, Howard, Georgia Tech, which would be fun for you to watch, I think. George Washington.
I like the question marks next to George Washington.
Yeah, they bring them back to life every year for this game. Tulane, Duke, Oglethorpe.
That's in Atlanta. I used to do landscape there in high school.
Florida and South Carolina before they were in the SEC.
Yeah, interesting. It's just an interesting history tidbit there, and that's what Ferg's great for, right? Like, he's really good at that kind of stuff. At digging up random shit that nobody would have thought about. But
yeah, I would love to know what he looked up to go find that.
Yeah, I'm sure Wikipedia has it somewhere. But
I don't know if Oglethorpe is anywhere.
Or Ferg just has this information in like a library in his apartment, which I don't have.
He definitely has like a filing cabinet full of like strange Auburn facts.
Yeah, no, definitely, and then that's why he's so good at this, right?
Yeah.
But interesting to see all these different changes. Also, like basketball verbal meme reference. Everyone can show up to Jordan Hare to see Kentucky. I'm sorry, Auburn would have to travel to Lexington. My apologies. That's at Kroger Field. Their field is literally sponsored by Kroger. Carry on. They should call it the grocery cart. Just saying. The buggy would be awesome.
I do like the buggy.
Yeah, the buggy that'd be pretty good. Like, hear me out. But very interesting slate. And like you said, I mean, this is a 10-win schedule in year 2 under Hugh Freeze. It's a freaking 10-win schedule. And 10 wins in 2024 means, well, do with that as you will.
And
And
2024 is the first year of the 12-team playoff. Just
that's
throwing it out
pretty much what I'm getting at.
there.
And I will say this, something that Auburn fans should be proud of the athletics department for is, in my opinion, like I mentioned earlier, Dylan, should be a 9-game conference schedule. You should play a Power 5, a Group of 5, and then your FCS if you want a cupcake like that. Auburn has pretty much built that schedule anyways, with the exception of one additional conference game, and then you get a couple cupcakes, so be it, right? I'm interested to see schedule modifications around the rest of the league as we get closer there, because I know that there are some schools that are just historically not good at scheduling Power 5 non-cons. I mean, there's a lot of them. To be completely honest with you, a lot of them will hide behind a couple cupcake games and gaslight people into thinking they're a little better than they are to maintain bowl eligibility. Auburn's done it in the past, folks. They're not clean. Let's just look at like a couple years ago when there was no Power 5 game scheduled and there were no home and home set up. But very interesting to see how that plays a factor, especially when you add a pair of teams into the SEC. I personally think there's a couple more on the way.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say on the way, I mean by 2025, and we'll see how that works out. Something else to watch that I don't know that people are talking enough about. I do eventually think that the Deep South Souls rivalry will be protected again. This could fix the Alabama and Georgia thing, being in the same look, like both on the road or both at home in the same year. Just something to stay woke on, pay attention to. That could wind up being a good thing for Auburn, because damn, that gauntlet sucks.
Well, and yeah, you look at none of these opponents have been set in stone on when they're going to be.
Sure.
All we know right now for 2024 is that I believe Cal is going to be your game 1.
I got an educated guess that Alabama is going to be game 12.
Yeah, and you have ULM to prefix
Week
them.
11.
Yeah, week 11 opponent. Well, it's actually week 13 and then week 12 for ULM because you get the bye week.
Right. Sorry.
Technically.
Your 11th and 12th games.
But you start off the season with Cal and New Mexico as game 1 and game 2. So it would be Auburn versus Golden Bears and the Lobos in Jordan-Hare Stadium, leading into a pretty favorable SEC schedule. And when I say favorable, I mean very favorable. And it's worth noting real quick. OU got the shaft when it comes to scheduling.
Poor pitiful Oklahoma.
In the first year of them being in the SEC, they have to play at Auburn, at LSU. They have to play against Tennessee, against Alabama, against South Carolina, and of course they have their little rivalry against Texas.
Yeah, well, Oklahoma's also bringing their softball team to the conference, so I really don't want to hear it.
It is going to be interesting to see how this affects all of that because,
I mean, like that. Yeah, I don't even want to. I don't even give me a list.
Baseball just gets that much better because of Texas.
Yeah,
and softball just gets a lot more competitive for second place with OU.
Well, and then Texas is great at softball too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look around Texas, a great swim and dive program historically. Like, it's Oklahoma competitive in track. I mean, come on, like what the hell?
And the SEC just gets so much better at every sport.
And the thing about this, in a hypothetical, I'm going to keep throwing around this team this university rather, until they eventually submit their form to join the SEC. Think about when Clemson comes in. Then you bring football, baseball, and softball again, and basketball, and they come up there, and Texas basketball. I mean, how the hell we forget about that? And I mean, it's interesting with this conference expansion. I know we're going a little off tangent there, but it's all. I think the reason that I think it's important to mention it, Dylan, is we're about to see these dominoes all fall, and we're going to see how this all kind of plays out, because football is just going to get the limelight for scheduling and things like this, and how rivalries are protected in football specifically, because obviously I'm not naive to the fact, you're not naive to the fact that it is the biggest revenue generating sport in intercollegiate athletics, and in the entire United States, second most generating sport in the world. Anyways, But beyond that, football will set the precedent to see how everything else is handled. And I think that that's kind of an underlying storyline that we're not talking about enough yet, to see how the SEC is going to handle the integration of Texas and Oklahoma in terms of scheduling, in terms of, I guess, geographic, like even just travel, right? I mean, it does inherently get more challenging. So we'll continue to monitor that. But that's a storyline. I'm firing up the rumor mill and convincing everyone that Oklahoma, the reason the SEC invited Oklahoma in is so that their softball team will have to travel more and actually suffer some kind of fatigue.
And just to look into the future, Auburn 2025 opponents are probably already set in stone if it keeps the same format going into the next few seasons. So starting off Alabama, your permanent opponent forever and always. Then you bring back the two Mississippi teams. Then South Carolina, who Auburn is on a 2-game losing streak against. Tennessee, Texas, LSU, and Florida. Really tough.
What's that Dolly Parton song? Here you come again.
Yeah, compared to the 2024 slate, 2025 is a little bit more difficult. And that's even accounting the fact that Georgia's not even in the 2025 schedule.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah. But
that's a slate. But in theory, bring it back to Auburn. This one plays to the advantage of the orange and blue. That'll be year 3 under Hugh Freeze. In theory, if he continues to recruit and then can develop the way that a lot of people think he can, competitive programs should be in good shape.
Yeah.
I mean, great teams have to play and win on great schedules, or I guess horrific if you're a fan. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, you have to be competitive at that kind of level. So iron sharpens iron. That's kind of how the SEC works. It's kind of the SEC's mantra. You can lose games and still go win a national championship. That's a plus. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there. I think Auburn should count its blessings about 2024, and then like how everything kind of shook out. I think that Auburn actually did get the easiest hand of cards. But I mean, let's not forget JF3 had to run a 50+ yard touchdown against Vanderbilt on homecoming one year. So
can we a list of guys that I'm tired of talking about at random moments in this show?
Is JF3 on there?
But yeah, if you talk about great teams by great teams, if you look at the 2024 campaign for Georgia, yeah, they don't have to play Auburn, but they have Alabama, they have Texas, and they have Clemson.
So let's go from Dolly Parton to Lizzo, and just hit. It's about damn time.
Yeah, I don't think that's probably the first time anyone's ever said that exact statement.
You know, that's what we do here.
Dolly Parton to Lizzo.
That's what we do here. No, I mean, yeah, no, finally, right? And I'm not sitting here bitching and moaning about Georgia always having this cupcake, even though they do. But I mean, Georgia clearly the best team in the country the past 2 years, undeniably, like undeniably. But also, like, challenge yourself a little bit. Like, put something on your plate. Like, come on now. And to Georgia's credit, they didn't choose this, but they did try to schedule Oklahoma. Let's not forget that whole part.
They would have had Oklahoma, and would have had Oklahoma. Change them out with Charleston Southern, I think.
And they would have beat the brakes off of BV in Oklahoma, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, would not have mattered. But
would have really made them reconsider the whole SEC thing.
Yeah, would have made Oklahoma think, maybe not yet. Maybe not ever. You would think that the Alabama beatdowns in the playoffs would have done it, but
we're definitely like the third time in the past 5 years that the Boomer Sooner wheels fell off. Definitely,
yeah. To the SEC, but that'll be interesting. Other teams kind of everyone's getting affected differently, and there's like a range. And Georgia's probably getting screwed the hardest in terms of strength of schedule completion, and Auburn's probably on the other end of the spectrum. So Auburn fans, there's UW.
And you got every other year to have a really favorable schedule if this were to continue.
Which is like kind of the Auburn shtick. So what does it matter?
Yeah. It was like, all right, we were
mentally, your headspace, like aside from the fact that opponents have changed, your headspace should be the exact damn same.
We can still lose one of these stupid games in a stupid manner, and it'll probably happen. Don't worry.
Oh, that's the Auburn way. Fearless and true, fight on your oranges and blue. We will let down you.
And to talk about, just bring up something about this upcoming season, not just next season, Auburn fans are very excited about the 2023 season. Speaking of the fact, they are fewer than 1,000 season tickets away from breaking their all-time record.
I got mine. Did you get yours?
I don't really have the budgetary
No, you're
abilities.
about to get. You have to. I mean, you posted a commitment graphic of yourself for teacher.
I mean,
For
I can eventually, but I think by the time the season starts, I don't think I'm still going to have all of the $500. But
Right.
huge shout out to all the people that are buying it. Keep buying them. It'd be really cool, and it's crazy how much hope and faith can be put into a coach when they actively recruit to benefit their team. Talking about keep going back into the class of 20, going back to the year 2024. Auburn picked up 2 more commitments to the class of 24 and 3-star wide receiver Bryce Cain and 4-star safety Kensley Faustin. And just a little bit about them. Bryce Cain, 5'11", 170 pounds. Kensley Faustin, 5'11", 170 pounds. And a little fun fact about Cain, as a junior in high school, he has a personal record of a 4.35 40-yard dash.
Hey, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, he is the number 5 overall wide receiver in the state of Alabama, number 88 overall. And Kensley Faustin is the number 9 safety in Florida and the number 36 safety overall in their class. But yeah, and you talk about the talent brought in from the DB room. That is the 3rd 4-star defensive back to be added to this class. A wide receiver to be added. So now you have a whole trio added to this class with Walker White at quarterback, Fat Burnett at running back, and you have Bryce Cain, wide receiver, and Martavis Collins. I said trio. That's a quad right there.
Yeah, and have you looked at the 247 rankings, Dylan?
I have not since they've been updated. I tried to look at it after they immediately committed, but 24/7 is not as fast as I was.
So checking in at number 38, your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Checking in at number 37, your Auburn Tigers.
That's a big jump. They were 40. I believe they were
Yep.
47.
I was more or less just getting a chance to say the Jackets on live air, but that's a very funny little crossover moment for me. The crossover episode where everyone walks in and whenever the celebrity walks in, everyone's and acts like they're surprised, and then you just cheers, yeah, and then Auburn leads.
The sitcom reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
great start for this group. I mean, great spot that they're in right now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what Kensley Faustin's exact rating was, but I think I don't think he's that close to being a 5-star.
No,
he definitely could be if in the Florida Everglades. That is their high school football. And just looking at their corners that they've already added, Amon Lane has officially now shut down his commitment, and he's going to be joining Auburn's high school recruiting staff, which consists of Walker White, Martavis Collins, Fat Burnett, and the one recruiting staff that Auburn can't pay right now, at the very least.
right.
And I mean, what a class this has been so far, and what a class it could be with the addition of a possible Cristobal linebacker who is committing today as this comes out in about, if you're watching as it comes out, it'll be about 4 hours at noon, where Joseph Phillips from Booker T. Washington High School in Tuskegee, Alabama, will announce his commitment. And Auburn is in his top 5, and I mean, he's been Cristobal. He is choosing, I think, between, I think it's Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, and 2 other teams that I don't think really matter. I think it's either Georgia or Auburn, really, for those 2 spots.
Such an important get to go get Joseph Phillips out of Booker T. Washington. It goes back to, we've harped on this and harped on this and harped on this, recruiting the state of Alabama. It's so important. Even if you're not necessarily recruiting against Nick Saban, keeping in-state talent in-state is so important, especially a guy who's in your backyard. Tuskegee from Auburn, as the crow flies, I think it's 8 miles. As the road winds, I think it's about 17 minutes. You can go home for lunch and see mom. You don't have to do that. I'm not making that sales pitch, but it's so important. This is like falls into that conversation we have about Opelika guys, Auburn High School guys, Central Phoenix City guys. I mean, and then you go over to Montgomery and just right down the road and being able to keep people in their backyard, especially a talent that you're stealing from a UGA, from a Tennessee. Now that's on the table to play Tennessee more often. Like it's important regardless. But if Auburn goes out and secures Joseph Phillips, that is a huge win regardless of rating. That was my piece.
Yeah, and yeah, sorry, I just got a notification on my laptop for low battery, which is not right at all. It's from my phone. There we go. But yeah, you look at recruiting the top talent in the state of Alabama. He's the number 3 linebacker in the state, number 15 linebacker overall in the class, and he is standing. And I think I should have wrote it down, but he is a run stuffer. And I think he's probably along the lines of one of those guys who could probably get that 5th star very close. And I was looking at this class, and it's a weird comparison. But when you play NCAA 14 and it has team needs and it lists all those positions and like how many you need, this class is really panning out looking like one of those because you have your 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 corners, a safety, and now you're really trying to get that big time linebacker. And if you look at it, what's that thing Trevon Reed always says? What's that one phrase? It's like, we're not finished yet. We ain't done yet.
Not finished yet.
Auburn's also looking at trying to get a couple of guys who are committed to the team across the state too. KJ Bolden, 5-star safety. Auburn has been in.
They're committed to Alabama State,
huh?
They're committed to Alabama State or South Alabama. Which one are you talking about?
Across the state from Alabama, so they're Alabama.
I'm gathering Troy,
UAT,
UAB, even
UAT. They're trying to commit to UAT. There you go.
You see, I'm trying to make a meme here. Dylan decided that's not the time, so I'm going to shut the hell up.
But yeah, you're also looking at Jalen Mbakwe, who is a 5-star safety who has come out. I don't know. Were you on the show when I brought up what Jalen Mbakwe said?
Possibly. It doesn't ring a bell, so probably not.
Well, this is say that Auburn is this 5-star safeties or 5-star corner.
Yes. No.
It was his dream school when Gus was here, and then a certain coach came along after Gus was fired and decided not to recruit this 5-star safety cornerback athlete. And now that Hugh Freeze is on the Plains, he has made sure to keep in constant contact with all of these 5-star guys who want to come to Auburn, and rightfully so. And this goes into that conversation about the fact that what a job Hugh Freeze is doing to Auburn recruiting. And I don't think enough words can be said about the state of Auburn recruiting now as it was a year and a half ago. And Auburn is, you said 37th right now?
College lip drinking game. Take a shot every single time there's a comparison that is night and day of recruiting this year as opposed this tenure as opposed to last tenure.
Well, it's going to happen for the next couple of years until you can finally get the thought of the last coach out of our heads, just what he did, and because you see Auburn's potential and what it was being wasted on.
People still remember Doug Barfield, bro. It's not going away.
Hey, luckily, I was not around whenever that was going on.
I wasn't either, but I talk to older Auburn fans all the time about it, and they'll always be like, "Well, you didn't live through Doug Barfield." I'm like, I lived through Brian Harsin. So I actually transitive property, given my lifespan, I think I have.
I mean, just looking at it, and there's so many guys that Auburn can't go after. Cameron Coleman,
Sure.
big wide receiver. Perry Thompson, even he's a hard commit to Alabama, but Auburn's wielding away at it.
We do not care.
But yeah, and with that, you got anything else to add for football?
No, but it's time for my favorite segment of the show. Just hands down favorite segment of the show. When we bring on our interns and then send them back to the depths of hell. It's very fun.
Yeah.
So let's go into in his bag with
Beyersdorf.
Come on in, Colin. Bring yourself up here.
What's up, guys?
There he is. And then no Daniel to clown us today, which I miss Daniel, #sad, but he didn't clown us for our song. It's very near and dear to our heart, and we want you to know we made it specially for you, Colin.
I know. I feel the love every time I hear it.
I'm so glad.
Truly.
It is our favorite part of the show. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. Who's in their bag in Auburn athletics right now, Colin?
So I'm going a little different direction here today. I'm going with a coach.
Love it.
Head volleyball coach. What's his first name?
Brent,
Brent
Brent,
Crouch.
Brent Crouch. Come on, my boy.
Brent Crouch. He signed his 5-year extension, getting the big deal with the Tigers.
Let's go.
Took the volleyball team, a very young volleyball team, to the postseason last year, second postseason all time in Auburn volleyball history. Got a dub against a ranked Creighton team, so it was a big deal. He's proven he's here to stay in the Plains, so he's locked up through 2027. So
you were explaining to me before the show about his 7-year plan and how he's ahead of schedule.
Yeah, he said he came into Auburn with a big 7-year plan. He's probably 2 to 3 years ahead of schedule with the NCAA tournament win. So big balling on the Plains. He's in his bag. He's getting his bag.
That's
it is what it is.
I mean, I think this is a great choice. I mean, quite literally getting his bag, but also in his bag. And he reached pretty deep in his bag to take a team that young.
Full of freshmen.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. So we can only assume 5 or 6 natties in the next half decade.
Yeah, easy.
Okay,
big dynasty in upcoming.
Big dynasty energy
for sure.
Some might call that BDE. Continue. All right, Colin. It was really. It's always a pleasure. Now get the hell off my screen.
All right. See you.
Bye, Colin. And you couldn't tell earlier. He looked like he was passed out catching some Z's on the bottom of my screen. The very least.
Hey, dude, it's college loop after dark.
I'm just saying he did a full Jason Voorhees just sit up into his chair.
Hey, bro was ready though. He came locked in. He brought the energy, which is crazy. Didn't even require a Red Bull. So I mean, I'm impressed. I shout out Colin. Let's flip over just really quick about men's basketball. Walker Kessler will play for Team USA's FIBA World Cup team, and as a rookie in the NBA, 9.2 points per game, 8.3, and 9.2, 8.3, 2.3 split. That's all you really need to know. All I really care about. I honestly tabbed away for a second, so I had the numbers in front of me.
Were you struggling on 8.3 rebounds?
I now have the line in front of me, so I couldn't remember if it was. Yeah, okay, rebounds. Thank you. Also, you and I write stats so much differently. Anyways, that's okay. I just literally tabbed away. I would just be REB, rebound. Anyways, so that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that should be an exciting experience for both Walker Kessler. Also a great recruiting tool for Auburn. It's always thinking about Cruton, right? And how you can convince people. LeBaron Phylon. That Auburn is a great selection for you and can get you NBA ready. Also, Walker Kessler quietly had, in my opinion, the best season of any rookie period. No, I'm just not kidding. The Rudy Gobert trade, he single-handedly has made that Rudy Gobert trade look stupid on his own. And it's so funny. And the Jazz got so much for it. And now the Timberwolves are just sitting there and just what do we do with him? All he did was start a pandemic and get some rebounds for a while. And now Walker Kessler is just as good, if not arguably better than Rudy Gobert.
And way more likable.
Oh, 1,000 times more likable. Cost a fraction of the price. And the Jazz are they're set up with a little squad now because they can go to the NBA draft. They can wheel picks, go get guys. They're an actually attractive landing spot. I mean, honorable mention for Bagman. If this was a universal Bagman, it could be just the Utah Jazz, low key. That's all I really had to mention about men's basketball. But Walker Kessler quietly took the NBA by storm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he would have gotten my vote for Rookie of the Year, but Paolo Banchero got way too much hype going into the draft.
Paolo also kind of went super gremlin.
Yeah, it was really his to lose from start to finish of the season.
But I mean, I certainly think that the Utah Jazz have to look and go, wow, damn, we won. Not just the trade. I mean, the trade, but obviously, but the value that that Walker Kessler was assessed with was just clearly not what anybody expected his NBA ceiling, except for the people sitting in this room and a lot of people in Auburn, Alabama, expected his NBA ceiling to look like. I mean, that dude was. I didn't have Walker Kessler being more NBA ready than Jabari Smith Jr. on my bingo board.
Well, he went to a significantly better coaching staff than Jabari
Smith. Listen. I'm the biggest Bari defender in the world. All right, Bari's my boy. He's going to wind up being an NBA All-Star. I mean, I sincerely believe that. But I did not have Walker Kessler immediate success before Jabari Smith on my bingo card, but here we are.
If a certain team had picked Jabari Smith at number 2 instead of the other guy that got picked at 2.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay.
I don't think you're okay. I'll go.
I
I'm
had to
going to start rolling
watch-
the outro. I'm going to start rolling the outro before you start.
I will say one thing. Just Bryce Cain, 3-star wide receiver Auburn picked up in football. He goes to Baker High School, so it'd be really nice if he could talk to his buddy in his school classes, Silver and Phylon, about rejoining his and a commitment to the Auburn.
Don't let Phylon know. Let him know what's going on.
I'm saying you have lunch, you have break, you got PE, you got workout, study hall,
whatever,
biology.
Yeah. If you get detention for talking during study hall, we'll write you a pass. The guys in the college league.
Whatever you got to do.
The NCAA is actively firing me an email right now saying that they're filing a lawsuit against me. So that's going to be super, super cool. That's not actually happening, but for those words got out, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time the college league got in legal trouble. Who cares? So Dylan's just kind of staring at me now. That was funny. It's far enough away now. It's funny. Anyways.
Yeah. Tarr, let everybody know where they can love you, find you, support you.
Huh?
I said, let everybody know where they can love you, find you, and support you.
Oh, yeah. So Dylan's telling me to shut the hell up. I'm Harrison Tarr. I buy Harrison Tarr on the Bird app. If you want to come hang out with me, would surely appreciate it. If you want to check out anything that I'm up to, honestly, I'm just right here at the college league right now. I'm super, super busy with my full-time job over at the Making Bacon. If you guys want to check out any of my design work over there, I'd be super, super happy to send it to any of you guys. A lot of really cool stuff coming that way. We have Hawaiian nights this weekend, some with steel drums. So that'll be super, super cool. And I will be doing the Macarena on top of Dugout. That'll be live streamed on Flow Sports if you're interested.
That's going to be a treat. And I would definitely be screen recording that. And that's going to be in the video file for me to play at any point of the show of my liking.
If you think that bothers me, it doesn't. That's
yeah.
awesome.
I think we need more reactions to throw up in the middle of the show. Don't throw up mine. That's it. But yeah, I'm Dylan Larck at You Boy the Tank on Twitter. And if you're watching, it's just right there. And it's also in the description. Sorry, I had a smaller screen this time around. It's also in the description at YABOI the Tank. And if you want to follow us on social media, you have us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also watch us here where you should like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your questions. Gregorio is taking is showing all of y'all up by giving us the best questions. My dad, Tarr, can I help you?
Waiting for you to tell them that we don't have MySpace.
Yeah, I almost forgot. Because if you didn't forget, we don't have a MySpace yet. If y'all get to 1,000 subs, we'll get one. We're also about 20. Not 20. We're in the teens now of subs needed until Daniel has to dance on TikTok. And of course, if you want to listen to us, you have us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And with all that being said, it's been the College Loop Podcast.